I hired out to Colonel Slaughter, driving steers to Abilene. Green and wet behind the ears, a kid of 17. Though I was raised in Texas, I was not a seasoned hand, so I got the job of Hoodlum, the Coosie's right-hand man. On the Llano Estacado, all you see is endless plain. You dread the sound of thunder, there's no shelter from the rain. Now Coosie did a strange thing. When the evening meal was done, he'd wait until the stars come out, then move the wagon tongue. He said, son, there ain't no landmarks on these wide and rolling plains. Ain't no trees or mountains, so each day it looks the same. But you'll never lose direction, and you'll know just where you are. You'll always point the wagon tongue toward the old North Star. Then out beyond the Cimarron, one cold and stormy night, I watched the cattle stampede in the lightning's eerie light. Took several days to round them up, get 'em settled down. We followed with the wagon through the soft and muddy ground. As we pushed the herd across the plain, we had no way to know that we had drifted way off course toward New Mexico. And in the night the stars came out, his theory stood the test. Abilene's up north of us, but we were headed west. He said, son, there ain't no landmarks on these wide and rolling plains. Ain't no trees or mountains, so each day it looks the same. But you'll never lose direction, and you'll know just where you are. You'll always point the wagon tongue toward the old North Star. My life has been a full one, my hair is turning gray, and I've seen a lot of sunshine, but I've seen some cloudy days. For a while I wandered aimlessly, and I still wear the scars when I didn't point my wagon tongue toward that old North Star. 'Cause life is like a grassy sea, the trail ain't always plain. One may lead to pleasure, and another lead to pain. But you'll never lose direction, and you'll know just where you are. You'll always point your wagon tongue toward the old North Star. No, you'll never lose direction, and you'll know just where you are. You'll always point your wagon tongue toward your own North Star.
Stock from the Gulf to Kansas City, and running wild is all I've ever known. This cowboy's got a weakness, tight Levi's and yellow ribbons. There's something about him I can't leave alone. Tight Levi's and yellow ribbons make a cowboy swim a river, but before he jumps he knows his way too wide. They'll make him throw a saddle on a bronc he's never seen, and one he knows he'll never break to ride. And I met one at a rodeo in Douglas, Arizona, and I drawed the rankest bull a man can draw. But I rode him tall and I marked him high, and when I beat the whistle, well, the crowd went wild, but she was all I saw. That night we had a beer or two with friends of mine from Dallas. She smiled and said she loved a Texas draw. So I felt like Roy 'cause I became the hero. Got the money, girl, and all. Tight Levi's and yellow ribbons make a cowboy swim a river. Right before he jumps, he knows it's way too wide. They'll make him throw a saddle on a bronc he's never seen, and one he knows he'll never break to ride. Yes, they'll make him throw a saddle on a bronc he's never seen, and one he knows he'll never break to ride. Me and Ernie Taylor, we left Denver yesterday. We was a-hauling his old Scorpion horse home. By the time we reached my cattle guard, it was plain to see everything I had at home was gone. She didn't leave a note for me saying where she had gone, but she ain't coming back. She closed all the gates. And after 7 years of rodeo, she finally turned me out. I reckon she's had all she could take. That's all that woman left me was one grass rope and a trophy saddle that I'll never ride. 2 pairs of Levi's and a pair of Justin boots, and she left them 'cause neither one's her size. She'd warned me 100 times someday she'd leave. She'd take every single thing she could find. I don't mind her taking everything she called hers, but damn it, I don't like her taking mine. What the hell, I got me 2 more rodeos to make this week, and a long way to haul that horse of mine. And I know they'll throw this dance up in Red Lodge Friday night. There'll be a sweet thing to take her off my mind. 'Cause all that woman left me was one grass rope and a trophy saddle that I'll never ride. 2 pairs of Levi's and a pair of Justin boots, and she left them 'cause neither one's her size. They wouldn't have been here if either one's her size.
When I come to this country, they weren't but 6 stars, and the moon was the size of an egg. Then with brown wheat straw papers and an old roll your own, it pulled stories from a Bull Durham bag. On the porch of the X's, they'd sit swapping tales after the work was complete. These old-time cowboys had done all their living in the days when the grass was still deep. They'd roll smokes and tell jokes and rope cows and ride colts, talk of winters and summers gone by. And I'd sit there and listen for hours on end, get the coffee when the cups went dry. They'd talk of long days back in the worm time and roping 40 a day, and the old dirty 30s and after the war, but mostly how time slips away. They'd break out in story of old so-and-so. By the way, did you know that he died? Well, no, I sure didn't, till you told me just now. Dang it, he's a good friend of mine. They'd roll smokes and tell jokes and rope cows and ride colts, talk of winters and summers gone by. And I'd sit there and listen for hours on end, and get the coffee when the cups went dry. Now I was just a kid, according to them, but someday I might make a hand. But I'd give a month's wages to know what they knew. I guess they just learned from the land. Don't know if I'll ever live up to them, if I last long and still earn my keep. Well, a kid might just listen, bring the coffee around, and hear the stories of when the grass was still deep. They'd roll smokes and tell jokes and rope cows and ride colts, talk of winters and summers gone by. And I'd sit there and listen for hours on end, get the coffee when the cups went dry. Yeah, I'd sit there and listen for hours on end, and get the coffee when the cups went dry.
We're way up high in Sierra Peaks where the yeller pine grows tall. Sandy Bob and Buster Jiggs had a roundup camp last fall. Took some horses and running irons and maybe a dog or two. And they swore they'd brand all the long-eared calves that come within their view. Now any old doggy that flapped long ears and didn't brush up by day got his long ears whittled and his old hide scorched in a most artistic way. Said Sandy Bob to Buster Jiggs as he throwed his seagull down, "Well, I'm sick of the smell of burning hair, and I allows I'm a-going to town." Well, he saddled up and they hit him a lope, for it wasn't much of a ride. Them was the days when an old cowpoke could oil up his whole inside. They start her out at Kentucky Bar at the head of the Whiskey Row. They winds her up at the depot house some 40 drinks below. Well, he set 'em up and they turned 'em around and starts her the other way. And to tell you the God-forsaken truth, them boys got drunk that day. They was a-riding back to camp and packing a pretty good load. Who should they meet but the devil himself come prancing down the road. Says he, "You ornery cowboy skunks, you better hunt your hoes, 'cause I've come up from hell's rim rock to gather in your souls." Says Sandy Bob, "Old devil be damned, we boys is a kind of tight. You ain't gonna gather no cowboy souls without one hell of a fight." So Sandy Bob punched a hole in his rope and he swung her straight and true. And he lapped it on to the devil's horns and taking his dallies too. Now Buster Jiggs was a riata man with his gut line coiled up neat. So he shakes her out and he builds him a loop and lassos the devil's hind feet. Oh, they stretched him out and they tailed him down while the irons was a-getting hot. Well, they cropped and swallered, forked his ears, and then branded him up a lot. They pruned him up with a D-horn and saw and knotted his tail for a joke. And they rode off and left him there necked up to a blackjack oak. If you're ever up high in the Sierra Peaks and you hear one hell of a wail, you'll know it's just that devil yelling about the knots tied in his tail. I stop and watch the prairie come alive. A red-tailed hawk is screaming as he circles through the sky. I hear the cattle bawling in the drive, and I saddle up my pony in
the light of early dawn, and I ride the lonesome prairie till the daylight is all gone. I roll out my bed to a coyote's lullaby, close my eyes and dream beneath a wide West Texas sky. If you don't know the saddle, I can't make you understand. There's no use for me to even try, 'cause every single cowboy knows how good the leather feels, and I don't find a need to testify. So I saddle up my pony in the light of early dawn, and I ride the lonesome prairie till the daylight is all gone. I roll out my bed to a coyote lullaby, close my eyes and dream beneath a wide West Texas sky. When my ride is over, my final race is run. Plant me so I face the morning sky. Let my spirit join the red-tailed hawk and circle down the wind. That way I know this cowboy soul won't die. And I'll saddle up my pony in the light of early dawn, and I'll ride the lonesome prairie till the daylight is all gone. I roll out my bed to a coyote lullaby, close my eyes and dream beneath the wide West Texas sky. I'll stop and count my blessings 'neath the wide West Texas sky. Riding back to Texas from a drive to Abilene, with a wagon, the remuda, and the crew. The Cimarron was boiling red and rising by the hour. It was suicide to push the horses through. Now Cody Bill was pining about his darling Anna Lee. He'd left her crying back in San Antonio. The 1,000 times he'd read the note he carried in his jeans. Cody, darling, won't you hurry home? Now trailing longhorn cattle is a life that's wild and free, and the prairie is a puncher's paradise. But it was dark and deadly in the spring of '83, when the Cimarron was red and on the rise. We were at the wagon, playing cards and telling lies, when he announced that he was going home. We told him he was crazy, he would never make it through, but Cody smiled and saddled up the roan. Then I made him a promise I'd look after Anna Lee, in case he didn't make it through tonight. He turned his collar to the wind and bid us adios, and whistling Dixie he rode out of sight. And trailing longhorn cattle is a life that's wild and free, but the devil's playing hell in paradise. 'Cause it was dark and deadly in the spring of '83, when the Cimarron was red and on the rise. It was nearly 7 days before we got across. The roan was in the shadow of a hill. He was skinned from head to toe and covered up with mud, but there was not a sign of Cody Bill. Oh, I guess we knew that he was gone, but we looked anyhow. We rode for miles and searched on either side. We combed the brush and drug our ropes through every water hole, But Cody Bill had taken his last ride, and I've kept my promise and I married Anna Lee. And the boy we're raising has his daddy's eyes. Someday I'll tell him all about the spring of '83, when the Cimarron was red and on the rise. 'Cause it was dark and deadly in the spring of '83, when the Cimarron was red and on the rise. I thought we were finished with all of our troubles and left them back home in the Kentucky sand. Survived all the battles of war, death, and ashes. We were hoping for peace in the great Texas land. But Kentucky can't lay claim to all of the bad ones. We crossed the Red River at noon yesterday. 2 outlaws stopped us, demanded our horses, but they're through with hijacking after today. I got off the wagon to quiet the horses. They didn't see Bessie, a double 10 boy. They fell from their saddles. I gathered their horses. A 2-barrel shotgun has evened the score. Wife and the children are still in the wagon. Molly cries softly but muffles a sound. The clink of the shovel attracts no attention. I bury them deep and then smooth out the ground. Our entry to Texas was less than a welcome. I'm still excited we finally arrived. A chance to start over and nothing will stop us. We'll call Texas home for the rest of our lives. We drive into town as if nothing has happened. Jefferson's quiet on a hot afternoon. We were planning to stop, spend a day or two resting. We will sleep tonight 'neath a big Texas moon.